I just wanted to make sure that we're all still here and we're enjoying some Pinot Noir. You know, it's something that I've always enjoyed. It's been great for me to be able to have some of these wines in our portfolio now. But we were really raised on other wines and other types of wines.
Oh, Chappelet wines.
Chappelet wines.
Yeah, I've heard.
You know, and we need to talk a little bit about Chappelet now. And I'm gonna, don't get me wrong, buy it all. It's all good. But we need to go on to some Cabernet-centric wines and some wines that really are grown here on Pritchard Hill. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about that. One of the things I'm going to talk about right away, right here, before I forget, which is that 2011 was a vintage that I think you have there. It's a Mountain Cuvée. Perfect. Was a vintage that we had to work very diligently on, and we did not have very gigantic volumes of. So if you're short on the 2011, know that 2012 is coming along, some remarkable vintages, and so we're going to see some different wines here. So Philip, what are we going to try next?
We are going to try the Cervantes Mountain Cuvée, and this is this wine has quite a history, and you know we started making it kind of almost by accident, and maybe that's how good things happen. There was in the winemaking process, there's always a lot of variety that we come up with, and when we make our blends, we try and marry all the lots to create a certain character. But inevitably, there's a few lots that are left over. And what we did, this was back in 1993, we put all those lots together, and we thought, well, we'll have this nice kind of entry-level wine that we feel very good about and stand behind. And so we put all these lots together, and of course, the the final wine was greater than the sum of the parts, and we made this wine that just flew out the door. And we were like, what did we just do? I think we created some kind of magic. And so we did it again the next year, and we found it was quite reproducible because we were working with such good fruit. And based on the success, of that wine, we started buying grapes and making more of it, and somehow we've never been able to make quite enough of it.
Well, it's been a lot of fun to make that wine. You know, I'm going to kind of add a little interlude here because the people who are making this happen, this is not a science of what we're doing. No, all of you out there around the country have to realize that my brother's our cameraman. My wife is running
She's the producer?
The producer, and his wife is the boss of all of ours. And I just want to give you guys a little, whoops, dropped a bottle. Whoops, got to buy one more. I just want to give you, I don't know if anybody can see this picture at all. Can anybody see this? Somebody's put your hands up and you can even see that there's a picture here. Give me a thumbs up or thumbs down.
I can see that they're
okay,
looking,
very good.
yeah.
I just want to show you right here in this corner, this little white spot right there. That's about a 8-month-old baby, and that's Dominic, who is now 41, who is now filming us. This is my sister Leisha, and this really, really cute guy right up here with the cowboy hat, that really cute guy right there. There's Dominic. He just stuck his head in here. That really cute guy, that's this ugly guy right here. That's me. That's what happens when you have all these years of drinking. And I just want to let you know this is a family business. We enjoy doing this. You know, the interesting part of this whole deal is that the Trones, which is all of you are sitting in literally one of the Trones' living rooms, so to speak, are the family that own Total Wine. And these relationships, as Philip mentioned, what great relationships we have with our growers, we have to have equally as good relationships with the people who are helping us sell the wines. And so I just want to give a toast to the Trones because for putting this on and putting this on their dime. And I am sorry, David and Robert, for giving away all that Chardonnay I did a little while ago, but maybe if I pump you a little bit, we can
work it out.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So Mountain Cuvée. You were starting to talk about Mountain Cuvée and about the remarkable wine that we're making here and how successful it's been.
Yeah, and so the Mountain Cuvée, a cuvée just means a blend. It's a French term for a blend, and it's a blend of Bordeaux varietals. Although every now and then, if you read the fine print on the back of the label, every now and then we'll sneak in a little bit of Syrah or Petit Syrah. It kind of just hitchhikes in with the other varietals, but predominantly it's the 5 Bordeaux varietals that we grow on Pritchard Hill and all around Napa Valley. So it's a fun wine to make, but it just comes out with this beautiful complex aroma. Not one varietal. It's usually dominated by Cabernet, and then Merlot would be second. So you get the dark cherry and berry fruit, but you also get the spices from all the others, and very soft and very drinkable. And I think this is a wine that we see it on by the glass on all these high-end restaurants. I'm so proud. You can go in San Francisco or Los Angeles, anywhere around the country, you see Mountain Cuvée by the glass, and people are just drinking buckets of this, and I'm just like my God, I made that wine, and people are loving it.
We do have a really great following on Mountain Cuvée in the restaurants, and there's a great reason for that. It's wonderful with food, which is one of the things I want to talk about a little bit. It's really easy to go to a wine tasting and take it all in a vacuum and kind of forget to talk about what you actually do with these wines, usually, which is put them on a table with something great to eat. And what might that be? Well, we just kind of made the jump from tasting Pinot Noir, red, French Burgundian varieties, to Cabernet-based wines, which are Bordeaux varieties. And I can see one room out there on our screen. Let me have a show of hands. Who's been to either Burgundy or Bordeaux or both? A few people. Good. So did you eat the same food when you were in Burgundy and Bordeaux? No, probably not, because the wines really lend themselves to different directions. With Pinot Noir wines, often we get game and birds and roasted things that the vintners go out in their fields and hunt, and they're delicious with red Burgundy. In Bordeaux, much more sort of high classic cuisine, but what we find with Cabernet that works best is grilled meats, and
that's
beef,
where I come in,
which is where Cyril comes in. And so you have beef or bison or things like that, much more heartier fare, because we have
bison.
Yeah, bison. Bison's wonderful with Bordeaux. You have richer flavors, richer texture in Cabernet and Merlot based wines that these glasses really lend themselves to, which kind of brings me to something about, I don't know if you guys you probably can't see it on my glass. It says Pritchard Hill there on the glass, which is, we're going to talk a lot about that wine in a minute, but Pritchard Hill is where we are right now. We are sitting about 1,200 feet above the floor of Napa Valley, and there's the floor right there. There's the floor of the valley back there. You can see it in the photo behind us. There's a really specific thing about where we grow these grapes. There's a French word that I always hate to bring up, but I think it bears mentioning, called terroir.
Oh, great, terroir. That just means rocks.
Well,
that just means where we're from. So
okay, let's be careful. Oh, it stands on its own.
There you go.
Oh my God,
we're floating it. So
good job.
These
Cyril.
rocks are really what we're all about. And this is a small one. This is a size that I actually lift, rather than the 10, 12, 14-ton boulders that come up everywhere.
And we have one right here.
One right here. You can see that over there.
That one weighs about 10 tons.
Yeah, that's a great way behind us back there. And then there's some big rocks in the center there, rocks all over the property. But these rocks are really what it's all about. And it really is about this volcanic, rocky terrain that we have. And in a romantic style, you call it terroir, but it really has to do with taking the flavors that come from this through the grapes, through the vines. And so let me move my great friend here. I'm going to bring up a friend of his in a moment, but
wow. Whenever you hear that word terroir,
you got all through your childhood of pulling rocks out of vineyards. Don't hurt
yourself. Don't break anything now.
I think it weighs about 40 pounds.
Whenever you hear that word, it's really easy to substitute sense of place for that word, because what terroir means is the grapes reflect what the land and what the environment gives us. And that's really present in this mountain cuvee. We're on a mountain. That's where we get the name. And that always drives smaller berries, richer, more intense fruit, and that's one of the things that brings Mountain Cuvée to the forefront and why all of our friends in restaurants want to pour it by the glass. It's wonderful with their food, and we have a great deal of success with that. So we hope you're enjoying that wine. I am going to take my leave of you for the afternoon so that I can make way for a very special visitor.
Well, there's a couple things that have to happen. You actually have Sophia, who you promised the afternoon to, and you came up here, took the time out of doing that to come here, and thank you very much for taking the time. But the woman who just walked in is Mom, who just showed up, and so we get to have my mother here for a moment or two, and it seems like everybody's been raised by Mom.
Farewell, everyone. Have a lovely afternoon, and welcome, Molly. So my mother's coming, and my mother is the person who has been with us and been our inspiration for all the beauty that's happened on Pritchard Hill for all these years. And she brought one of her closest friends in here. This is Snaky Poo, and Snaky Poo actually lives here on Pritchard Hill, and it's a very big important part of this. This is one of her other children. She keeps them under a rock usually, and when it's not under a rock, Snaky Poo actually could be a wine holding device. So I recommend everybody has one of these, but we do have rattlesnakes as well as rocks here, and I just thought I just want to give you a little bit of the outside feel of who we are and where we are. Mom, since you're here, say good morning or good afternoon to everybody.
Hello, everyone. I am going to say something positive about those snakes that Cyril is trying to scare you
Well,
with.
you're getting quite a round there of waves. That's...
Oh, hi. But I wanted to tell you that those snakes are very valuable to us because they help keep the rodents down, and we have voles and moles and gophers. In the first few years that we were here, we tried to eliminate some of those rattlesnakes because we were a little worried about our small children. But we found that we were not doing ourselves any favor. So now we just welcome them. We ask them to stay out of the houses. That's it. But otherwise, we welcome them. What am I getting?
Did you ask them to stay out of the house? That was nice of you. Because somebody had to talk to them. They've been trying to get in.
You know, it's kind of interesting. My mother is so wonderful. She's kind of a snake charmer in her own world. And if you think about it, she's had to deal with all of us lovely little snakes. There's 6 of us. 5 brothers and sisters who are all part of this, but she didn't do such a great job last week in that in my office a rattlesnake did roll in, and now we're having snake training classes for our employees now. All these things that we have to do now because a rattlesnake came in, but the wine that we just poured is our 19. Gosh, I am totally baffled here.
We're getting mixed messages.
We're only a decade off, So this is our 2011 Signature Cabernet, and one of the things that I wanted to state really clearly is that I don't know if you can see this bottle here, but take it for granted that this is a Magnum, and this is the first vintage of the Signature Cabernet that we ever did, and that was in 1980. And so we've been doing Signature Cabernet since 1980, and this will kind of lead us into what we're doing and what the program is for the Signature Cabernet. So just wanted to show you that because it's slightly different label than this label right here. So Philip, talk to us a little bit about what it takes to make Signature Cabernet and how important this wine is for us.
Sure. Molly, did you want to add anything on the Signature Cabernet? You're so instrumental in bringing these wines to life.
Well, you know what I think about every time I sip one of our wines, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, we're actually drinking a dream. We're drinking Don Chappelet's dream of 48 years ago when he thought, oh, I would love to be able to make a world-class wine. And thanks to you,
what a dream.
Philip,
what a dream.
I think we're coming very close to his dream.
Well, so the Signature Cabernet is, it does have the signature now every year. So we don't look at, just a Signature Cabernet on certain years because what we've, really as a company, we've said, well, let's let's bring our best forward every year. And then if it's a tough year like 2011 where it was very cool, we had some rain, and it was just late ripening, we only take the very best lots and put them in the signature Cabernet, and if something's not good enough, it doesn't go in. So we feel the wine reflects, it should have Don's signature on it every year, because Pritchard Hill is such a consistent place to grow high-end Cabernet. And we don't have Dave Pirio here today. His daughter has a track meet, and so you have to have your priorities. But he is our vineyard manager, and nobody worries more about this land and the grapes that grow here than Dave Pirio. So I can speak for him because I spend a lot of time with him. But he really took extra efforts to make this 2011 signature a really great vintage for us. But we didn't make much of it, and I think Total's been having a hard time keeping enough of it in the store. And it's just sold out so quickly, and we just didn't have enough to go around. But that shows our dedication to making a quality, not a quantity. Then, followed by 2012, wow, we were just blessed with quality and quantity. So 2012 will be one of those vintages that everybody will be able to experience, pretty much as much as they want.
Well, yeah. I should mention though, it's important though, because of the velocity of the sales of this wine, the success, Philip, of your quality of this wine, that it is moving much faster. So 2011 has moved very, very fast, but 2012, I would recommend if you have the ability to sign up and get an allocation of it from the store, you probably want to do that if you like this wine. So
otherwise, we're going to have to go to Jay's cellar.
We're going to go to Jay's cellar because that's where all the wine is, in Jay's cellar.
That's right. The Pinot's over there too.
That's right. So just want to let you all know. So.
If you get a knock on your door, kind of, around dinner times, it might be one of the people we've invited.
So talk about the flavor of this wine.
I get the flavor that in the 11 especially, but I think it's even maybe more obvious in the 12. But I go with our vineyard manager, Dave, into the vineyard because I'm in the vineyards every single day of my life. I start my day either with I used to call it a run, the children call it the trot, turkey trot, but whatever it is. I go in and out of the grapevines, and we have a great flock of turkeys right now in the upper terraces of the vineyards behind our home. And what I love is that I actually feel I can taste the earth in these wines. And I always have felt from our Pritchard Hill wines that I can actually sense the earth, and very much like you do in many Bordeaux wines, you sense the earth.
It's the concentration that comes through.
And that produces those grapes. And then also, I would like you to think when you are drinking and sipping our wines that you are experiencing part of our land, not only the wonderful soils that we have, that we fight with the rocks for every bit of soil that we have, but also, I think you sense some of fresh air, the springtime right now, and the beauty of this vista. I'm sure those grapes.
Now that you've heard all the romance of all of this from my dear mother,
that's what I'm getting.
Yeah,
you asked me.
But I like cassis. I get flavors. I get black fruit. I get some really intense flavors out of this. That I think is the magic, and it's all romantic, Mom. I understand that.
But I get sunsets too.
Yeah, well, it's all pretty for you.
I tasted the sunset.
Didn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, because if you're 1,500 feet above sea level, you're going to see the sun longer than those people.
Besides inviting people to Jay's cellar, maybe we should invite them to your patio to see the sunset.
You're welcome.
Mother is inviting you all to her patio. I think that's a great idea, and Jay's going to be there to help pour the wines, and Philip and I will be there. Drinking, eating. So, but there's another part of this too. Is what is it that would pair so wonderfully with a wine like this? And I think that when I think of this, the signature Cabernet specifically, I think of things like a wonderful osobuco or something that's got some richness and complexity to it, or on a fish side or something like that, it might be a salmon steak with a lovely little sauce with it or something, because there's so much richness and so much complexity to this wine. It really needs something with some fatty content.
Definitely
in it. So,
some richness to go with the wine.
Well, I think a rack of lamb is rather nice with it myself.
Well, I think filet mignon works well too, actually. And but something Philip mentioned a little while ago is grilling meats and things like that. And that char that you get is something that's special. And you could even do that on eggplant. You could do that something on a vegetable.
And you do that well.
Yeah, and bring that along, because it's those kind of flavors that kind of work well with the oak and with the structure that kind of rounds this wine out.
And one of the things to bring up about this wine is, we talk about Cabernet Sauvignon on Pritchard Hill, but really we grow all of the Bordeaux varietals. And there was a time when the Chappelet Cabernets were 100% Cabernet or very close to it, but we have incredible Petit Verdot, Malbec, Merlot, and Cabernet Franc, and that really adds to the complexity. It's not as it's multi-dimensional with all these different varietals, and so that's been a big part of our investment in the vineyards over the last 20 years, is to bring forth all this diversity, and that goes into making this wine so incredible, every year.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about two of the wines. We talked about our entry-level Cabernet being the Mountain Cuvée. We've moved on to the Signature Cabernet, which is the workhorse of the winery and is the wine that, thank you very much, Dominic, for helping with that. That hand that just came in there was my brother Dominic. As I said, once again, this is a family affair. It can't do this all by yourself. It's kind of like playing tennis with one person. It doesn't really work very well. Nobody send the ball back to you.
Unless you've got a good backboard.
No, you need to have somebody on the other side catching those balls, moving them back together. So this is the 2008, Philip, wine that we haven't tried in a long time, and we've been selling it in 2010. But my understanding is we've done such a good job with the 2010 that we had to go back in our library, specifically release more wine just for Total today to bring a wine out of our library. One of the most remarkable vintages we've made was 2008, which is, I think, tasting remarkably right now.
I think this is.
Cheers, Mom.
It's so nice to taste a wine with a little bit of bottle age. We're so used to drinking wines young. I love tasting wine out of the barrel, and I like tasting wines out of tanks. But when a Cabernet is really meant to age, and we could talk a little bit about how well Chappelet Cabernets age. The 69 and 70 Cabernet from Pritchard Hill are still alive and well, and what a treat. And unfortunately, we don't have a lot of them, and we don't get to open them very often, but these wines improve and become so complex and rich with time. So I would say if you are buying the Pritchard Hill, definitely drink a bottle soon, and then buy a second one to age, because these wines just gain complexity so much. So with the 2008, it's already starting to show bottle bouquet.
I look at this glass, and I have a white piece of paper behind it. I don't know if you do, but I have a white piece of paper to look at the rim variation. You look at a wine that's had a little bit of age on it, and typically you might see some rim variation. You might see some. This wine is just as deep and ruby and crimson color as you possibly could have. I think that it's got a long ways to go, but it's starting to just kind of open up.
Yeah,
it's really
becoming
terrific.
Opulent. I think there's almost like a syrupiness to the sweetness to the nose, a cassis that's coming through. And as since I know this wine, from its infancy, the tannins are already starting to smooth out. They're becoming velvety. And so really a treat for me, and I hope for everybody else, to have this wine now, because not that this is an old wine by old wine standards, but it's getting there. And
I think it's got a long way to go.
Got a long way to go, but it's already starting to show what happens with age.
One of the things that happens, I think, is that people start to get serious about wine. Wine should not be serious. Wine should be fun. People should really enjoy doing what they're doing. Speaking to that point, I think you want to find creative things to have with wines. You want to find things that really work well with your wines. You want to drink wines in great places, go to great restaurants, all kinds of things. You know, and from time to time, it's hard to find just the right place or just the right item. And I've come up with a terrific thing that I found here. And when I don't know what to do, I just use this as my basic level of the WT fork. And you can figure out what that is. It basically says, if you don't know what to have with your wine, pick something else. Have something else with it. If you don't know who to have your wine with, find some other friends. Great wine is to be enjoyed with great friends. Have some fun out there. Enjoy the wines. If you have to have wine, you could even have to have it with your family. Oh, Mom, sorry, I didn't know you were here. Oh.
Some of our best evenings are Tuesday when you're not there, darling, and we have to have wine alone.
That's good. We need you to have
Or
some
with
wine
another
alone.
one.
No, it's something that's, you know, it should be fun. We go to Europe, we go to all over the world, we try wines from other communities, we get invited into people's homes, we try to share our homes and what we all do. You know, we're very gracious with people, hopefully, when they visit the winery. But it's really about the great relationships we're able to build through this wonderful product called wine. And I think that's really critical.
What a life. Wouldn't you choose winemaking over just about anything else?
I would choose being here, living on the vineyard, working every single day, and watching you make magic in the winery.
Well, yeah,
Make
gardening,
all of these-
winemaking, grape growing.
It's
I mean,
all
it's been,
it's all part
yeah.
of being grateful for the land and what we have,
Yeah.
and blessing Don for choosing this place.
So
we need to do that more often.
So now we've had all the romance and all those
Well, you
wonderful
keep
parts of
going
it.
back to romance,
You
but
know-
isn't that what life is about?
Well, it only works when all those people out there and all my friends all over the world, maybe all over the country, Arizona, California, Nevada,
Cheers.
who are enjoying our wines, actually enjoy the wines. And there is special pricing right now for everybody, all of you, and Total has put together special pricing just for this day regarding our tasting. So I want to let you know that, and I don't have the price list right here, but I do know that one of the great things in Total's mantra is that they will have the best price everywhere, and that's their objective, and they have done that well, but they still honor the quality and build the quality of what we're trying to do. You know, we've had a great time going through all the wines. I'd really like to ask Carrie Boyle, who has been thoughtfully putting together and working with all the guests out there to get questions. If Carrie, if I could have you respond back to us with some of the questions that some of your people have been asking over the last hour that we've been blabbing along. So thank you all very, very much for dealing with our little get-together and wine drinking. We toast all of you from all over the country. My mother doesn't care about our Riedel glasses and if they break.
Well, let me tell them a few secrets, because so many people hold their wine glasses like this, which of course then you can't see how clear and beautiful the wine is or what the color is. So that's why the stems are there. That's very obvious. But if you clink on the fat part of the glass, almost any glass is a little more resistant there. It also makes a more beautiful sound, and then it's stereophonic. Try it.
Okay. By the way, my mother drinks a lot of wine, but I think she
God.
smoked a little something this morning.
I never knew that.
So I have to let you know that marijuana is not legal in California, but she might have flown out to Colorado for the last couple
You
days.
don't need it if you live on a vineyard.
Okay. Thanks, Mom.
Some of our neighbors might be growing it, the illegal ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carrie.
Oh,
Hello,
All right.
Carrie.
Can you hear me here?
yes.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you very much for leading us through all of those beautiful wines. We're having a great time here, and we do have a number of questions. So the first one comes from Reno, and the question is, are all of the grapes for the signature cab from Pritchard Hill?
Yes, of course they're from Pritchard Hill. We've been working for years to be able to do that, to make that work. And I should go back for a moment. Yes, they are from Pritchard Hill, and they're from our vineyards, and they're from some other vineyards that we're also working with that are all right around us here on Pritchard Hill.
Okay, perfect. The second question we have is from Folsom, And they had a guest show up today, and they brought a bottle of their 1980 Chappelet Cabernet that they've been cellaring, and the guest was curious if there was anything special about the 1980 vintage for Chappelet as a winery or Napa in general. He would also like to know if he can continue to age it or if he should drink it soon.
Right now. Right now. Who is it? Who has it?
Okay, well, you know, I'm glad they have the 1980 because that is, and those are good questions. You be careful with that bottle of wine while you're driving around because that's a very valuable bottle of wine. But 1980 was that was that big bottle that Cyril was holding up, which was the first signature Cabernet produced by Chappelet, and because it was such a good vintage. And you know, not all vintages are created equal, and when the good ones come along, it's pretty obvious, you know, because the wines are so dark, they're so aromatic, they're, you know, dense and concentrated and great structure. And that was one of those vintages. And that wine will, if it's cellared well, will live a long, long time. But it's really, at this point, quite drinkable. So I would say it is a special vintage. It was a special vintage for Chappelet. It was a special vintage for Napa Valley. You know, it was a good year to be born, you know, so you could have that as your birth year because those wines will be good on your 30th birthday and your 40th birthday and maybe even your 50th birthday. So I would suggest being very careful with that wine, setting it up right for maybe overnight or for, you know, for 24 hours, and then decanting it, because as wines age, you know, all the, you know, we're talking about composting and the, you know, the smells and things like that, lots of color and tannin fall out of the wine, and right now it should be sitting on the bottom of the bottle. So decant it, let it breathe, and I'd say, you know, no time like now to drink that wine.
Could you have, while we're still here, I just want to ask you, if you'd like to have him call me, I'll help him to drink that bottle.
We all will.
You know, one of the tricks with those old bottles is getting the cork out of the bottle, because those corks don't last forever, and they get all crumbly, and you know, the wine soaks into the end of the cork. And so be very careful getting that cork. That's really an art, and probably, you know, the master somms, if Jay was still sitting with us, he could probably give you a tip, but it's be very careful getting that cork out so half of the cork doesn't end up in the bottle.
Excellent, thank you. We've got a question now from Chantilly, and this is both, or for everyone on the panel there. How is the current drought affecting the growing season this year? Did you catch that?
We've got it. Philip, you've been closest to it on a daily basis.
Yeah, well, the drought, there's just something about Napa Valley that things just seem to work out. We were so fortunate in so many ways. You know, we're in the northern part of California, and we're close to the Pacific Ocean, and so we really, this drought was very scary, and we hadn't had rain. But you know, when the vines are dormant, when they're asleep, you know, when the rain's supposed to be coming, the vines don't really care so much about the drought. They want to know there's water in the soil when they start to grow in the spring. Like right now, they're budding out, and the shoots are like 2 or 3 inches long. That's when they need moisture. And so we have a term for a March miracle, and it's really one of our wettest months in Northern California. So it really hadn't rained at all until March, and then we got these amazing storms. And so we really, for our little part of the world, we're in very good shape, and probably for Sonoma and Mendocino, you know, those counties surrounding us, we have now enough water. The soil profile is full. There's moisture around the roots, and then our reservoirs are now full. Our wells are, you know, pumping. So we aren't going to experience any downturn from the drought unless we get into competition with Molly for the garden, because we've got 2 enterprises here. We grow grapes and we grow flowers and
never take a drop
plants.
of water.
Do they just grow by themselves?
Needs. Yes, we actually plant a lot of things that reseed themselves and don't require water, like the Valerian, which you see all over the
Yeah.
place right now.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Doesn't require any water. But, oh, you want to say something?
Yes.
How are you faring in the drought? How's your
Well,
garden?
it's very erratic because we've had erratic temperatures. And
Oh,
so
the
that-
cold,
yes, yes.
yeah.
Right, so that's made it difficult.
Carrie, it's all yours.
All right, we have a question from Renee on Twitter, and she asked if you could offer any food pairing suggestions for the Chardonnays that were presented today.
Cyril, you're such a wonderful chef. I think you could take that.
First of all, there's an awful lot of great pairings with the richness, with the cleanliness, with the different wines that we showed in the Chardonnay category. There's an awful lot of things. This being the springtime, a lot of vegetables are coming along. Some of the lighter white fishes, such as petrale sole, some of those things are great. Lots of chicken things. I like a little grilled chicken. That works really well. If you have a pizza oven, cook your chicken in your pizza oven. If frankly, a great pizza, margarita pizza works really well with this. I think we had one last night at a local restaurant, and that worked really well with the Chardonnay.
Well, would you mind if I throw in a vegetable?
Throw in a vegetable.
All right. We have enjoyed spinach, fresh from the garden, and just steamed, and then but with the browned butter that adds a little depth to it with our Chardonnay and a little nutmeg, and it's quite extraordinary combination.
Also, grilled scallops work well. I mean, there's a lot of great things that can really work well with this.
That sounds really
so
good.
Hopefully that gives you a little bit of an appetite, and you got a few items. If you're ever curious about it, you can always dial 1-800 4, the letter 4, winery, and you can get directly to us, and we'll try to help you out with some other recipe ideas. Carrie, it's all yours.
Well, now everybody's just hungry. But we're on to the next question here from Maryland. You are located in prime real estate there on Pritchard Hill. Do all of the wineries get along, or is it a competitive environment?
Well, okay, well, this is kind of interesting. We have some terrific neighbors. We are very, very fortunate here on Pritchard Hill. For the first 20 years that we were here, we didn't have any neighbors at all. There was nobody up here on Pritchard Hill. Pritchard Hill has become kind of, I guess, one of the places to be. I doubt that it was because that we were here that they came, but I think certainly it was because Dad chose the right piece of property, and the soil profiles, what can be done here on these properties are remarkable. So with the idea that it's a great area to grow Bordeaux varietals, and I don't think there's any one of our neighbors who are doing anything else besides Bordeaux varietals at this point. Phil,
there's a little bit of Syrah. There's just a tiny little bit of Syrah, and we have a little bit of Chenin Blanc. And so,
yes, a little bit of Chenin.
Molly has your name on it too.
What a coincidence!
Yeah.
So I'd have to say that it's a very fortunate situation that we have really good neighbors and we get along very well, and we work aggressively to protect and promote Pritchard Hill together as a group.
Okay, I am going to combine a few questions here because I've gotten 4 or 5. Everybody is interested to know case productions, mostly for the Cabernets. So if you can maybe speak to case productions on the 3 different Cabernet wines.
Well, just in general, we make 275 million cases of wine a year. And I just want to get the ground level going. We've just bought Gallo. We've bought everything in the Sonoma County. We're going to buy New Zealand next. And after that, I'm not sure where we're going to go. But no, we're a small family winery. We're trying to do what we're trying to do. We can go wine by wine. But we make a few thousand cases of some wines a little bit more. Just kind of give you some round numbers. Why don't we talk to them about the different wines that we're making, kind of where we are.
Well, yeah, including Sonoma Lobe, none of the productions are on Sonoma Lobe are over 2,000 cases and range down to as low as about 800 cases. And then the Chappelet wines, like I said, we would like to have more of the signature Cabernet because that's something that we distribute throughout the whole country. Very little internationally, but around the country. But we would like to have more, maybe 8,000 to 10,000 cases of the signature Cabernet, but we often just don't reach the mark, because we're so conscientious about what goes in the bottle and what stays on the vine. Not only do we grow the grapes, but then our vineyard manager, when nobody's looking, he goes out and cuts some off and puts it on the ground, and because he doesn't think the vine should carry so much fruit. And so that's become routine, and he doesn't like anything that's pink or green or funny looking in any way. And it all has to have perfect sun exposure, so we never really reach our goals. We'd love to have 8,000 to 10,000 cases of the signature Cabernet, but we just don't get there. And the Pritchard Hill, about 2,000 cases. Mountain Cuvée we can make more of, and we would really like to make even more of that because it runs out. It never makes it through a year. So that's kind of in round numbers, and about 5,000 cases of Chardonnay. We're making the same 5,000 cases of Chappelet Chardonnay that we've been making for like the last 30 or 40 years. So there the production doesn't really grow. Not a big winery.
All right, so we have another question from Twitter, and it says, we were at Chappelet for the groundbreaking of the new storage on Pritchard Hill. Can you update us on the progress and maybe give a little background there?
I'm going to start that. Well, I'm going to start that and just tell you that during harvest, I came up to Philip and asked him how things were going. And Philip said...
Because this is the first year in the new facility.
And that's what you said to me. And he said, this is the first year. And he said, I never knew how hard I had it for all those 24 or 5 years that he had been working here and how much work they'd been doing. And so based upon that, Philip, why was it easier? What was it that made that all work so well?
Well, the new, we call it the chai, and that's the French term for a barrel storage facility. And it's really state of the art. And so the pyramid that we've been making the wine in was really state of the art in 1968, but we outgrew it and we modernized it over time, but really we had to expand. And when we did it right. We put in the best temperature controls, humidity controls. We can heat and cool the facility to keep it at just the optimum temperature in different zones, different rooms. We added more tanks, and we actually have a lot of space just so that we can lay down the barrels and work and get around the barrels from every direction and do all the cleaning we need to do. And so it's such a huge success. And it is hard to just look back 1 year and wonder how we got by in the other facility for so long. But we mastered that old facility. We could do anything there really that we can do now. It's just a little bit more work.
Excellent, thank you. So we have a question now from Columbia, South Carolina, and they ask, are ratings from Wine Spectator, Wine Advocate, and other wine publications important to you?
Cyril, you're in marketing, aren't you?
I kind of laugh because I would have to say that I don't think we chase ratings. I don't think we make wines that we're trying to get a rating. But the question that was asked was, do ratings make a difference? Of course they make a difference. They make a giant difference. And we've been very fortunate to get some very good ratings and very good scores. We have to be true to our terroir. We have to be true to what we can do from our vineyards here and make the wines consistently in the best quality that we can. We can't go chasing that because we know that Parker likes a certain style of wine that we try to make a wine just for him, or the Spectator likes a certain style of wine. So it is important, but I think the most important thing is to know that when you're following a brand and you like a particular brand, that you're going to have a quality that follows through with that. And yes, I'd like to have 99s and 100s all the time, but what would happen is I wouldn't have a job. My mother wouldn't have to hire me. I wouldn't have to do anything. It would be great. I'd be water skiing or something wonderful. So that would be great. Hundreds of 99s from now on would be just perfect. So, Carrie, thanks for the question.
All right. We've got a question from Miami, Florida. What is next for Chappelet? Is there any plan to expand the wines that you currently make?
Well, I think, you know, we've taken on a lot in the last 50, almost 50 years, and especially, you know, we've kind of gone into a new era in the last 20 or so years. We've expanded. We both expanded the line of wines we make, but then we also contracted. You know, some of the wines that we're making aren't sold nationally. Some are only from the winery. So we're making wine on so many different levels, and working with Sonoma Loeb, and now working with more different Chardonnays from around the cool climates in the Russian River and Carneros, and working with Pinot Noir. And I think right now, I think we've taken on a lot, and I think right now we just want to become better and better at what we do. And I think our hands are full. We're learning to function as we are, and I think we're just going to get better and better at what we do and make the wines even more polished and interesting, and just commercial and ageable. So I think that's the challenge, is doing what we're doing and just getting better at it.
It's not bigger, as Don has been saying for the last several years. I don't know how many. It is our best is yet to come, and you've proven that every year, which is just difficult for us to keep going. But that's the direction we want to go.
We
better,
keep raising
not bigger.
the bar, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree, Carrie. It's all yours. I'll take the next question.
All right. Question from Phoenix, Arizona. What recent trends or changes have you noticed in the wine industry or in Napa Valley? Is there anything we as consumers should be excited about?
I'll answer that. The most recent trend that I can think of is that people are really deciding to drink what they want. They're not so worried about what is the ongoing hot item, excited wine. I think people are really enjoying what they enjoy. One of the interesting things that happened was we watched one varietal we made for years, and we still make it, get almost creamed because of a movie that came out. And when Sideways came out and had the movie, when the movie came out and talked about Merlot negatively, we saw the Merlot take a dump. And frankly, people are enjoying Merlot again. But Merlot is a delightful wine. It's really terrific. Zinfandel is a delightful wine. There's a number of wines that are just terrific. People like trying wines. And the nice thing is the economy is pretty strong. People are enjoying going out and trying the best of their wines. So I'd say that the trend is people are continually experimenting, and they've found good values. They found wines that they really like. They found cool climate Pinot Noirs and Chardonnays. They found wines that really work for them. And I see that.
And I also think they're becoming more sophisticated in general. They're more selective. They're more, while they're, as you said, they're not going just by what has been done or what's been prescribed. They're more individual in their tastes, but they're also becoming really more educated about wines.
Well, they Twitter each other more and more. They use these little communications to tell each other what glass they just had. And that's what they get excited. They get excited about wines. That's how they decide what they're going to have, because a friend of theirs is at a restaurant twittering a great bottle of Chappellet. And I recommend that everybody twitters Chappellet right now to their friend and see what happens in the next 24 hours and see if we can really get some momentum.
All right, and we have a question right here from Folsom. Given the case production and location on the hill, why is there such a pricing gap between you and a winery like Bryant?
Phil, you want to take that one?
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, well, you know, when we compare the different properties, this is the second time the comparison between neighbors has come up, but Bryant and Chappelet have, in many ways, we have a lot in common because we're neighbors. And in other ways, we have very little in common because, Chappelet has, or I was going to say Bryant has actually a very small piece of property, and it's a great piece of ground. It has, historically grown, some of the very best Cabernet on Pritchard Hill. But they're making a tiny amount of wine, sometimes just really in the hundreds of cases. And as we've talked about, even though Chappelet isn't making that much wine, by global comparisons, it's still much more wine than somebody like Bryant, who I'm talking about maybe making 500 cases total, and they've
So
made
he can
some.
charge anything he wants.
He can charge anything he wants, and but we're in a business that is, I shouldn't say it's a real winery and theirs isn't, but we have a multifaceted winery, and we're selling wines at many different price levels. And our Pritchard Hill, if we're making 2,000 or 2,500 cases, that's a lot of wine by Pritchard Hill standards, and that's by virtue of the Chappellets really coming here first and buying a lot of land, and we have the ability to make quite a bit. But there's always that, supply and demand. I think if you compare the wines in a blind tasting, I often will think that Bryant is the Chappelet or the Chappelet is the Bryant. The two wines are almost indistinguishable because the vineyards are just right side by side. So maybe we should raise our triple our prices.
Well, of course we should.
Yeah, Molly's been advocating.
I guess that's a question I want to see a showing of hands. How about if we just triple our prices
And get up to Brad.
and we'll just get up to their price? Would everybody feel more comfortable about drinking that wine? Let's see a showing of hands in your room there. Who wants us to triple the prices? Mother does.
Besides Molly.
Okay. Mom wants to pay for a garden. Okay.
No,
So,
I just want to be fair to the grapes. They're working so hard to give us that beautiful wine.
ours work just as hard as theirs do. You're right. So.
Hardest working grapes.
Okay, so I mean we have fun with this, but I think we're making some remarkable wines and we're giving them to you at reasonable prices, and that's what our objective is.
All right, so now we're going to go to a question from Orlando, Florida, and it reads, Napa has transformed into a destination for people worldwide, sort of like Orlando. What are your feelings about the increase in tourism, having witnessed the transition over the past 40 years?
I would say build another road on the other side of 29 and the Silverado Trail, where we don't get impacted to have to wait. Otherwise, we love the tourists, right?
Yeah, they're all good people and they love wine, and so many of them visit Chappelet now. So tourism is a fact that it's not going to go away, and we welcome people here. There's a certain level that I think we have to be careful of, a level of saturation where it could become negative, not just for us, but for the tourists themselves, when it starts diminishing their experience here. Being in a parking lot on Highway 29, trying to get to your next appointment or to dinner or something like that, that's no fun. So I think that the whole Napa Valley, everybody here, all the vintners are really environmentalists, and they're very concerned about preserving the valley. There's so many ordinances in place, and they change with time. So, I think if we see that oversaturation coming, they'll say no more new wineries. There's only so many grapes. Maybe they'll say no more new wineries, and they won't limit the number of people that come here. But I think we have to be careful to not diminish what we have. And there's so many people. John Mark Chappelet, I mean, he's somebody that has worked so hard in the local politics to preserve what we love about the valley. So we all have to pull some of our weight here and work towards that.
And we have to keep working on it, or it'll disappear.
Yes.
It's interesting. I think that it's brought a whole different development, but I think people have done it very thoughtfully, and I think that that's one of the challenges here, is to continue to make sure, as Philip started with, make sure the experience is still remarkable, and that we are creating an experience and a special place for people to go, and that it does not get watered down just because of more people and opening the doors. So,
and that's why we have to limit our tours too, and our numbers of people that we.
Well, we physically can't take any more than we have right now, and that's just what it is because of the road, because of the access, and we want to make sure that people who come visit us have an experience that's a unique, specific experience, and we just can't. We're not Disneyland. We can't take them all. So, Carrie, I think that's about it for that one.
All right, so we'll just have a couple more questions and then we will wrap up. But we've got a question from Sacramento, and it says for Cyril, and it says, we all know the best wines in the world come from California. Do you have a second favorite wine growing area outside of California?
You know, at this very moment, I'd have to say my friends, the Duttons and San Giacomos, have weaned me over to Sonoma to looking at that as that is a remarkable place to grow some grapes and to make some terrific wines. And if I'm traveling across the pond, so to speak, if you're in England or on the East Coast, thinking about going across the Atlantic Ocean, I'd have to say Burgundy is pretty special. I think the people there are marvelous. I hope that it's a little bit of what we carry on, very personal, very direct, and the wines are lovely. And so Sonoma, then on to Burgundy is by where I go.
Well, Virginia's making some pretty nice wines too. Very small amount, but the other day I had a wine from, that's in United States.
Let me look at my geographic map here.
She asked things outside of California was the question. So Sonoma is still in California.
Yeah, but I want California.
Okay.
I'm going to Carrie, I'm going to twist your questions to answer the question I want to answer, of course.
You're smart.
It's all yours.
All right, and then we just had a Twitter question, and this can go to all three of you. When you're not drinking Chappelet or Sonoma Lobe, do you have any favorite styles or other daily drinkers that you'd like to share?
Oh yeah, and Titus as well.
Oh, no. Well, we could say Titus.
Yeah.
Okay, we can all say Titus because Philip's right here. So that was kind of a loaded question. Thank you very much for that Twitter, whoever loaded that one in there. The Titus wines are remarkable. Recommend you all try a bottle or two of that on your way out of the store. Fill up your basket. Good idea. I'm trying to get a little pitch for you, Philip.
Thank you. We need lots of pitches.
I think each of us have wines. I love some of the freshness and crispness of some of the Sauvignon Blancs out of New Zealand. And I'd have to say there's some remarkable New Zealand wines that are terrific. And Blakely, what's the wine that we enjoy? Taylor? Jules Taylor. Small vineyard, small producer. Jules Taylor is remarkable in his Sauvignon Blanc. Mom, you get a wine.
A Sauvignon Blanc, I would say.
No, you can choose any wine you want.
Well, but I like a nice Sauvignon Blanc, and I like Mary Edwards.
Perfect.
That's a good call because I like Mary Edwards too. And I also, my tastes are fairly local, and I love Peter Michael Chardonnay.
Oh, is that beautiful?
It's just so amazing. And it, I savor even my, we've always started our children drinking wine at a young age. And I think my kids discovered Peter Michael Chardonnay when they were 12 and said, "What's this?"
Really?
I mean, it's such a universal great flavor. And for me, that's my favorite, and for the kids too.
And then how about our own sparkling wines right here with Schramsberg? I mean, they just still make incredibly beautiful sparkling wines.
I think a great way to start every meal is with a bottle of champagne or a bottle of sparkling wine, and I'd recommend starting that and then
working to the Chenin Blanc,
and then moving on through. So more is better, and better is more. Okay, Carrie, it's all yours.
All right. Well, I think that we will wrap up now as we're almost out of time. So if anyone submitted questions and they did not get answered today, please check back on the website and our blog, and those will get answered in the next few days. I want to thank Philip, Molly, and Cyril, and Jay for joining us today. This was wonderful. I want to thank everyone that joined us across the Total Wine chains across the country.